Hey, what's up, folks? This is EJ David for another edition of Filipino Word of the Day. Um, a lot of people have been asking me, hey, you study Filipino Americans, your research interest is on Filipino Americans, so what are you doing in Alaska? Are there even Filipinos in Alaska? It's very similar to what Puff Daddy said a few years ago. He said, "What? Are there even black people in Alaska?" Well, Alaska is actually one of the most racially and ethnically and culturally diverse states in the country. For Filipinos, more specifically, Filipinos have a very long and rich history in Alaska. Filipinos have been in Alaska as early as 1788. There are Filipinos, crew members in explorer ships in 1788 that landed in Cook Inlet, which is very close to what we now know as Anchorage. And then, like in 1791, there were Filipinos in Yakutat. Actually, a lot of the Tlingit Indians in Yakutat around that time thought, when they saw the Filipino crewmen on the ships that landed on their shores, they thought it was one of them. They thought he was also Tlingit like them. And then in the 1850s, there were actually Filipinos all the way up to Point Hope, Alaska. So the history of Filipinos in Alaska go way, 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 way back. And then large numbers of Filipinos started coming to Alaska like in the early 1900s to work in the salmon canneries in the southeast parts of Alaska. That's when large numbers of Filipinos started coming here. And then today, Filipinos are actually the largest Asian Pacific Islander group in Alaska. Filipinos compose about 50% of the Asian Pacific Islander population in Alaska. And that's saying a lot because Alaska has a very large number of Asian Pacific Islander people. Actually, it's the percentage of Asian Pacific Islander people in Alaska is double the national average. So there are a lot of Asian Pacific Islanders here, and also there are a lot of Filipinos in Alaska. Okay, today, and so there's a rich, rich, rich history of Filipinos here in Alaska, and that's why it is really one of the best places to study Filipino American issues in Alaska. So it goes way, way back. It's a long, long, long history of Filipinos in Alaska. Many of them have actually married a lot of Alaska Native women in the southeast. A lot of the Tlinkits, a lot of the Tsimshians, a lot of the Haida women, because most of the early Filipino immigrants to Alaska were men. They were workers. They worked the canneries, they worked the gold mines, and so they married a lot of the Alaska Native women. And so today there are a lot of what some people will call Indo-Pinos, Indian Filipinos in Alaska, Alaska Native Filipinos. And my son, Malakas, is actually one of the newer generations of Alaska Native Filipinos. Malakas is both Filipino and Athabascan Indian. He is Filibascan. So there's a long history of Filipinos in Alaska, and there's a large modern day population of Filipinos in Alaska. Okay, so given that, our Filipino word of the day is MAHABA or MATAGAL. Both of those terms actually translates to long. Okay, you use MAHABA when you are talking about length. Okay, MAHABA, length. You use MATAGAL when what you're talking about is the length of time. Matagal, length of time. Matagal. Mahaba is long when you're talking about length of a thing, of an object. That's mahaba. And matagal when you're talking about the length of time. And that is our Filipino word of the day, matagal and mahaba. Matagal and mahaba.